Major regulatory wins for crypto in the past few days. 3 bills have been passed by the House of Representatives and 2 are already on their way to the Senate, with 1 being passed by the Senate and already signed by Trump. My name is Justin and I'm the head CPA at Count on Sheep, a crypto accounting firm, and I have read all these bills so that you don't have to. Let's get into it. So the 3 acts that have been passed are the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act, the Clarity Act, and the Genius Act. All 3 of these are important, but the most important, in my opinion, is the Genius Act, so we'll cover that at the end. First, the Anti-CBDC Surveillance Act is essentially prohibiting the Federal Reserve from creating their own digital dollar. Now, at first thought, some might think that this is a bad thing, that we would want the digital dollar to be able to transact with. But the reason for this is a lot of people feel that this will take away from the privacy of transacting on-chain. Now, of course, we still owe our taxes and it's important to pay, but if we had a digital dollar on-chain, there are major concerns that the government would be overstepping into people's personal lives and tracking what they're spending. And so this was a concern that a lot of people had, and Trump agreed that this should be prohibited. So the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act prohibits the Federal Reserve from having a digital dollar. The primary goal of the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act is to prohibit the issuance of a central bank digital currency, that's what CBDC stands for, and overall increase privacy and protect against potential surveillance. So a lot of people are in favor of this if they value privacy. However, there are other countries who are playing with this idea to bring their currency onto the blockchain, which would definitely have its benefits. But the question is, should this be issued by a central bank? If that is the case, then there are privacy concerns, and this bill essentially prohibits, for now, the issuance of a digital currency by a central bank. Again, this bill has only been passed by the House of Representatives. It needs to then be passed by the Senate and then ultimately signed by President Trump. So unless those things happen, it won't necessarily make its way fully through, but we have optimism here that those things will happen and we will see that passed very soon. The next is the Clarity Act, which it's in the name. The goal of this bill is to provide regulatory clarity for everything related to crypto and who regulates it. So the big question here has been, who regulates crypto? And because this question has been sort of a gray area for a while, a lot of people building on-chain and Web3 companies have been doing so offshore because there's been a fear that they would do it wrong, they wouldn't comply to the correct regulations, and then down the road, maybe 5-10 years, they get slapped with a bunch of penalties and potential jail time if severe. So because of that, a lot of people have been moving offshore and building offshore. But now the Clarity Act provides crystal clear guidance on who regulates what, and therefore allowing for builders to build with confidence. So the long of the short here is the CFTC, the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, regulates cryptos that are more like a commodity, like Bitcoin. So when it comes to a commodity, and it's defined within the act, when it comes to a commodity, that is going to be regulated by the CFTC. But if it's a security, kind of more like an investment, then that will be regulated by the SEC. So now that there is clear guidance around the regulatory framework of who is regulating what, builders can now build with confidence and come back to the US to continue building rather than doing so offshore. Overall, this is very good for the US economy and Web3 in the US, because we want, as a nation, we want builders to build in the US. We don't want all the building to be done offshore. And so the Clarity Act is exactly the regulatory clarity that we need in order for builders to build with confidence. So overall, this is very exciting. Again, this has also only been passed by the House, so it still needs to be passed by the Senate and then ultimately signed by President Trump. Now, last but certainly not least is the Genius Act. This is, in my opinion, one of the most important acts, followed maybe by the Clarity Act. But of the 3, this is a very big, important movement and win for crypto. And this is all about stablecoins. So this act provides crystal clear guidance on the issuance of stablecoins, including regular reserve audits and disclosures that are mandatory. So no more Terra Luna collapses of stablecoins. This is requiring one-to-one backing of, if you have one stablecoin, you have $1 in the bank. And regular audits will be done to ensure that is the case, and disclosures will be made by the issuers in order to make sure that everything is backed properly and is fully compliant. So this provides a lot, and I mean a lot of comfort and security for users such as myself and anyone else who is using stablecoins. We can now transact with confidence that the stablecoin is in fact pegged to the dollar, and there will never be a depegging moment like Terra Luna. Now, because of this, there are major institutions, including banks and even retailers like Amazon or Walmart, that are playing with the idea of issuing their own stablecoin. Imagine for a moment that you are banking with Chase, and instead of taking 5 to 7 business days to send money somewhere, you can do so in the matter of seconds because you now have a stablecoin that is backed by Chase. That is the future that we are looking towards. Now, with that said, there are some people, some critics of the bill that are concerned that major players like Chase Bank or Amazon would then dominate the stablecoin space and basically bring the decentralized concepts of crypto to a more centralized framework, which is certainly a real legitimate concern. So there's definitely a trade-off. We want a world where crypto is used widely and it's mainstream, but that might mean we have to embrace big institutions like JP Morgan or Chase to using these stablecoins. But nonetheless, this Genius Act provides crystal clear guidance and requirements for anyone issuing stablecoins to have one-to-one reserves. It even provides some bankruptcy preferences for anyone that is part of a bankruptcy. So if an issuer goes bankrupt, those that are holding stablecoins would have preferred treatment as opposed to those who weren't. And so that's also a very big win and protection against those that are using stablecoins. And lastly, this bill is the one that has been passed by the House, the Senate, and has actually been signed by President Trump. So this bill is live, and this is a very exciting moment and huge win for crypto because these protections are very important. We've seen a lot of clients who have lost a ton of money when it comes to stable coins that are being depegged, the biggest notable one obviously being Terra Luna. But those days are now in the past. We have clear guidance on who can issue stablecoins and the requirements that they have to follow, such as that backing requirement and audits, in order to make sure that the stablecoins are legitimately pegged to the dollar and there's no funny business going on. So overall, we think this is a big win for the crypto space. We think the three of these bills, tied together, are going to allow for building with confidence in the US for builders to build and users to transact with confidence, which overall is a big win for crypto, and we are very excited. We're hoping to see the other two bills get passed by the Senate and then signed by President Trump very soon. On top of these three bills, Cynthia Lummis, a congresswoman, is pushing for even more regulation to go through the House and the Senate and be signed by Trump. And I've read the drafts of these bills, and they are very exciting for the user specifically. These focus less on regulatory clarity and more so on the user and certain laws that are common sense to be applied to the users with tax impacts, such as the de minimis exclusion. So I'll just tease this a little bit, but we'll make more videos on later. But essentially, this is calling for any transaction where you are spending crypto, let's say you're buying coffee, where it's less than $300, there would be no capital gains on that. The way to think about this would be if you went to a foreign country and you were touring, you don't have to declare capital gains on foreign currency transactions when you are spending the foreign currency in a different country. Similarly here, if you were spending crypto, like buying coffee on cheap items less than $300, then you wouldn't have to pay capital gains tax. This definitely is favorable for users, but it does increase a little bit of complexity when it comes to monitoring and tracking those transactions. But we'll release more content on this as things develop, so definitely subscribe and stay tuned. And by the way, my name is Justin. I am the head CPA at the crypto accounting firm Count on Sheep, and we solely focus on crypto tax preparation. So if you work with TurboTax or a traditional tax preparer, that's perfect. That's where we come in. We handle just the crypto portion of it, filled out, ready to file, and then we pass that back to you so you can either plug it into TurboTax or hand it off to your tax preparer who might not necessarily know crypto like we do, and then you're good to go. And if you enjoyed today's crypto tax lesson, make sure to follow for more videos like this. And as you know, the crypto regulatory landscape is constantly evolving. So if you want help navigating the new guidance and strategizing around the new guidance, definitely follow for more. We are going to be releasing videos as news comes out, and we're going to be helping you navigate the new environment. So make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notification for more.